In this video, we'll talk about dependent and independent clauses and types of sentences. In order to make a sentence, one needs a clause. A clause is a group of words that contains at least one subject and one verb. Look at some examples. Students enjoy walking around the lake on campus. You have a subject and a verb. You can have more than one subject. Students, professors, and staff enjoy walking around the lake on campus. And you can have more than one subject and more than one verb in the sentence. Professors and staff are friendly with students and always help them. As long as you have one subject and one verb, you have a clause, therefore you can make a sentence. What is the difference between a clause and a sentence? A clause has a subject and a verb and no full stop or period at the end. A sentence has a clause with a full stop at the end or a period. Quiz time. Tell me if it's a clause or a sentence. Some of my aunt's room is decorated with flowers. It's a clause because there's no period. The spring training programs have begun. That is a clause as well, because there's no full stop or period at the end. Some of my aunt's room is decorated with flowers. And that is a sentence because you have a clause with a full stop. Here's a tricky one. Some of my aunt's room. It is not a sentence. It is not a clause. It's a phrase because it only has a subject, no verb. Now let's talk about independent clauses versus dependent clauses. What is an independent clause? As you already know, it has a subject and a verb. But an independent clause can make a complete sentence, and an independent clause has at least one subject and one verb. A dependent clause also has a subject and a verb, but it starts with a subordinator. And one dependent clause can never make a complete sentence. Here are some subordinators: because, since, even though, although, which, what, that, who, whom, whose, when, after, before, meanwhile, as long as. And there are more. Let's look at some sentences with dependent clauses. You have a dependent clause starting with even though, when, and because. If you put a full stop at the end of this clause, you're going to make a mistake which is called fragment. In order to make a complete sentence, you need to add at least one independent clause to a dependent clause. Even though students enjoy walking around the lake on campus, they don't like the bugs. Students can have lunch when they walk around the lake on campus. This college is the best in the state because professors always help students. You have three sentences that have one independent clause and one dependent clause. Quiz time. Tell me if it's an IC, independent clause, or DC, dependent clause. A mentor helped me in the lab. That is an IC because a clause does not start with a subordinator. After a mentor helped me in the lab. This is a DC because you have subordinator after, before the subject and the verb. Although everyone in the group was supposed to meet at the front gate, and that is a DC because although is a subordinator. Everyone in the group was supposed to meet at the front gate, and that is an independent clause. Let's talk about types of sentences you can make with ICs and DCs. You can make four types of sentences: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. A simple sentence has one independent clause with a full stop. And as I mentioned before, you can have more than one subject and more than one verb, as long as it's a unit of subjects and verbs together. Students enjoy walking around the lake on campus. Students, professors, and staff enjoy walking around the lake on campus. Professors and staff are friendly with students and always help them. A compound sentence must have at least two independent clauses with a period at the end. And let's look at some punctuation we use to connect independent clauses. Students enjoy walking around the lake on campus, comma, and many have lunch there. We use a comma and fanboys. Students enjoy walking around the lake on campus, semicolon, many have lunch there. You can connect two independent clauses with just a semicolon. Professors and staff are friendly with students, semicolon, therefore, comma, many students enjoy taking classes there. So the third way to connect two independent clauses is with the semicolon, transition, and the comma. Let's do a review. There are three ways to connect two independent clauses in the compound sentence. The first one with the comma and fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. We couldn't go to the beach, for it started raining. For here means the same as because. The second way to connect two independent clauses with a semicolon and transitions and the comma after. Here are some transitions: however, therefore, in addition, thus, in conclusion, as a result. It started raining, semicolon, therefore, comma, we could not go to the beach. Or with just a semicolon. It started raining, semicolon, we did not go to the beach. Complex sentences need one independent clause, and it can have more than one dependent clause. Even though students enjoy walking around the lake on campus, comma, they don't like the bugs. When you begin a sentence with a DC, you put a comma before the IC. Students can have lunch when they walk around the lake on campus, and the college is the best in the state because professors always help students. When the DC comes after the IC in the sentence, you have no punctuation. There's no comma. And the fourth type, compound complex sentences. You must have at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Even though students enjoy walking around the lake on campus, comma, they don't like the bugs, comma, fanboys, so some bring a bug spray. You begin the sentence with a DC, even though students enjoy walking around the lake on campus. Then continue with an IC, they don't like the bugs, and finish with another IC. Some bring a bug spray. Let's look at the second example. Students can have lunch when they walk around the lake on campus. Some students take pictures and post on social media. You begin your sentence with an IC, students can have lunch, followed by a DC, when they walk around the lake on campus, and you finish your sentence with another IC. Some students take pictures and post on social media. And the last example, this college is the best in the state, IC, because professors always help students, DC. As a result, semicolon, transition, comma, the enrollment constantly increases, another IC. Quiz time. Tell me what type of sentence you see. When Miss Jones entered the room, we all became quiet. You see a dependent clause followed by an independent clause, therefore it's a complex sentence. She rarely plays tennis, even though she's good at it. IC plus DC. The dependent clause starts with even though she's good at it. Therefore, it's a complex sentence. The country has been through major problems, for example, a lockdown. Now be careful here. Even though you see transition, for example, but only two commas, it's not necessarily a compound sentence. It's simply IC, one independent clause, with the subject country and the verb has been. It's a simple sentence. But now let's look at this example. The country has been through major problems. Semicolon, for example, comma, a long lockdown brought the economy down. You have two independent clauses connected with transition, for example. If you look at the second part of the sentence, you will see a subject and the verb. A long lockdown, subject, brought, verb. You have two independent clauses, therefore it's a compound sentence. And here's a review. You will find these pages. That's another cheat sheet for you with all 4 types of sentences and the correct punctuation for them. You will find this in your course.